Welcome to Stitches in Time, the podcast discussing Doctor Who the way it was meant to be watched, in chronological order, one clip at a time, starting at the Big Bang and ending with the heat death of the universe. I'm Becca, the Matrix Archivist, and I spent the last 12 years of my life meticulously editing the entire televised Doctor Who universe into chronological order.
I'm Mandy, and I'm blue. Dabba dee, dabba die.
Blue your house, blue
My little
window.
blue world.
Mm-hmm. Everything is blue for you. And also joining us, of course, once again,
Crazy Frog.
gamer, Twitch streamer, Sonic the Hedgehog best friend.
Come on!
Distant relative to the Doctor himself, Will Overgard.
Once again, in the single thread of hair tenuousness.
That Doctor's cousin. Doctor's cousin.
Dr. Cousin.
Also, phenomenal Big Finish box set. I pitched it now. Will Overgard is Doctor's cousin.
Look, if Resident Alien can get 5 seasons, and so can Doctor's Cousin.
Yeah.
I'm imagining it is whatever the UK equivalent of Beverly Hillbillies.
Call right, me governor, you better have some gallstones. Better get that out of you, doop-de-doo. Oh, you're in Hollywood. Oh, call right, me governor.
Well, I hate to tell you, but you doing like what I imagine is like a poor hick English accent is the fanciest thing I've ever heard.
Damn it! I've tripped myself up again. Why you've both chosen to have me back on your show, I do not know, but I'm glad to be here. And we are here to talk about the Green Death.
Will, I assure you it was purely a matter of convenience. No,
And
kidding, of course.
point of contention, you told me that I would be seeing a Green Death. One, I had kind of hoped that death would involve Tom Baker, so I was a little disappointed to see Pertwee. This is the first time that I'm seeing Pertwee not be a still JPEG. And this is blue. Does the BBC, I know that like color is new to them, but green is different from blue.
It did make me laugh when trying to watch this clip from Stitches in Time. I kept thinking I'd gotten it wrong, because the whole thing is blue filtered. Oh, it's called the Green Death. It must be forward. No, that's the wrong Doctor. Let's flip it back. That's the wrong Doctor.
I think someone on the set was maybe a little colorblind. Or I am a fan of the Doctor Who theory that the reason why the original episodes are in black and white is because those doctors were colorblind.
I do like that. The boring answer is because they had no budget for like monsters or effects for this episode, so it's stock footage of like a snake looking pensive in the same blue as Pertwee hanging onto a fucking cliff for life.
Yeah.
And then splash cut to an eagle looking slightly perturbed. Its dinner is late.
Yeah,
it's so good.
I am confused by this. So for our listeners, we are just watching the bit of The Green Death Part 1 in which John Pertwee, the 29th Doctor, is... sorry, the 29th Doctor who was originally played by Jonathan Carley. Is that correct? I don't care. Okay.
All comments and corrections must be left in the form of a 5-star review.
Yeah.
You understand?
John Colshaw.
It's also left by sending bits to Will on Twitch. We will also accept... Well, we won't accept corrections, but we will accept comments in the form of sending bits to Viking_blonde on Twitch.
I am so sorry, dear Whovian fans, for the chaos I seem to have wrought. Feel free to yell at me later. Okay.
So we have about a minute's worth of the Green Death Part 1 in which John Pertwee is wandering around the planet Metabolus 3 or Metabolus 3.
It's Metabolus 3. He says it so many times.
He does say it a lot of times. I just can't remember it.
Metabolus 3. And do you mind if I talk about the setup to this clip a little bit?
Please do, yeah.
So, in the previous episode,
so all of the doctors were together. They got off their Zoom call. And I guess, like Pertwee, I guess, didn't vibe in the chat. I mean, it was also in Matt Smith's mind, so it might have still been on Zoom. So he might have just got a disconnect, and he, had to go refresh his router. And when you refresh a router, an eagle snake eats you.
Yes.
Right.
That's actual IT advice.
I think what it really was is that the last clip is inside Matt Smith's mind, him imagining all the doctors, but he only really remembers David Tennant and John Hurt very well because they're the only ones who are moving. And he sort of kind of remembers the other ones, but not so well. So I think it's just Matt Smith has bad memory.
In fairness, in the age of where Pertwee is in comparison to Matt Smith, I feel like this is remembering your middle school years, and I don't really that's what that felt like. It felt like it was all blue because I was super into Twilight, and you get eaten by eagle snake.
Yeah. Okay, because I love this so much. Apologies to dragging us back to the episode, but you have to understand that for those of you that haven't seen this episode, The Green Death, which I rewatched specifically for this, thank you again for having me. Sorry for the mania, but there's a whole kitchen table conversation where the doctor is fecking about with some MacGuffin, and the entire time he is not listening to his assistant, who is talking about the devastation that coal mining is causing in Wales and the shuttering of a mine and this commune of scientists who are trying to solve it and what have you. The doctor is listening to none of this. Is damn right ignoring her out and out in the same manner, as I said in the last episode, of someone who did too much cocaine in the bathroom and is now explaining their movie idea to you at a party. And he keeps going, well, I'm going to Metabolus 3. I'm going to go to Metabolus 3. Are you not coming to Metabolus 3?
I believe it's the McGuffin.
Metabolus now
3?
We're going. Metabolus.
Metabolus.
And then he goes, and it's a miserable fucking death blue planet. The fuck was he expecting? Butlins?
Yeah.
Bloody Six Flags? He talks about it like he is so keen to go there. Like it's a fucking villa in France.
It also I think the previous episode in the BBC order is Colony in Space. And in that episode, he's like, I want to go to Metabolus 3. Let's go. And they end up in not Colony in Space, Carnival of Monsters, I think. They end up in the miniscope instead of in Metabolus 3. And then he's like, I thought this was Metabolus 3. I really wanted to go to Metabolus 3. He never says why he wants to go there, what's so great about it. He just calls it a famous planet.
He's so stoked to go there.
He's so excited.
Famously sucks.
And when in the beginning of The Green Death, when Joe says, I'm not fucking going to this planet that you won't tell me anything about. I'm going to go help people because I'm a human person who wants to help people because I learned this from you, Dad.
Yeah, and he treats her like she just turned down a free ticket to bloody Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
So
she missed out on a death hike to Giant Snake Bastard Planet.
So she just goes to Wales because she's basically like, no, I'm gonna advance the story along, Doctor. You can do whatever you want. I'm gonna move the plot forward. And he decides, well, fuck you, I'm going to Metabolus 3. And this minute-long clip is his trip there, which is just...
There are giant monsters, he is pelted with snow, he's hanging to blue cliffs of bad.
Yeah.
Since I'm in a place, which I frequently am, and despite what I say, I do enjoy being in the presence of people who know things about Doctor Who, because it means that I can ask questions. So, question to the board. How many doctors does it take to listen to a woman? How many regenerations did it take for that doctor to listen to a woman? And I would also like to pose, from my limited understanding of things, but only kind of seeing mostly New Who, I think the answer might be Capaldi.
I mean,
I think he forgot sometimes.
I was gonna say Jodie Whittaker, just because she is a woman, but then I realized she doesn't listen to any. She's kind of bad at like.
She's not a girl's girl.
Yeah,
she's a girl. Like, she's not a girl's girl.
She's like one of the guys. She's like, I'm a girl, but I'm like one of the guys.
Precisely, you were saying she didn't take advice from anybody. I was gonna say that Ace definitely had some. Ace?
Yeah.
No, I might be thinking of Red Dwarf. Oh my word! I know the last I'm thinking of. She had a rocket launcher.
Yeah, Ace.
I'm pretty sure that's Ace. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like Ace got respect, but I cannot think of a moment where Ace went, "You should do this," and the Doctor went, "You know what? That's a really good idea. I'm actually going to do that."
Because also, like, Sylvester McCoy spent a lot of time just like really just gaslighting Ace and being like, "Hey, I know that like usually my whole deal is that I take companions on fun adventures, but what if we just did a deep psychological dive into all of your trauma? Can we do that instead for like 2 seasons? That would be awesome."
I was gonna say my take on Jodie, R.E., her relation to women is that she is the specific type of pick-me that spends a lot of time being a guy's girl because they don't realize that they're a lesbian.
Yeah.
It is the particular sort of a girl who's like really into like men are for sport, and I don't understand why I don't want a relationship with them. And I'm way more intensely focused on the women in my life, but not in a healthy way.
I mean, you know, I'm going to even take it a step further. I'm going to say that Jodie Whittaker is a trans man because she turns into a man at the end of her run. This is terrible. Hang on. But then she became a woman. So she's so she's detransitioned. Hang on. The math is hurting my brain.
I personally, like, my problematic opinion is that I think that Peter Capaldi is Doctor Who's first lesbian. Well, first as the Doctor, because obviously Ace was there. Like, he loved women so much, he was like, I gotta get in on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was here to talk about bad special effects and coal mining and Thatcher. I am getting... Cheers to you both. Cheers to you both.
This is what this podcast is all about. It's...
Peter Capaldi's a lesbian. Let's go.
Do you ever love, as part of like your being feminine and you want to look like a beautiful lady, that you tweeze all of your eyebrow hairs off and become a woman? You ever tweeze all of your eyebrow hairs off because you love women too much?
Okay, but it was just, as I was saying before we got started, the 2 episodes you brought to me was 1, Day of the Doctor, and 2, the most British nonsense that I have encountered. Like, this is peak Thatcher era coal mine drama. Or we're going to be using a different kind of coal. We're going to be going to petroleum. Aye, it's much better, cleaner, healthier. Oh, well, I don't think that petroleum's going to be very good for us. The whole episode. Well, it's actually 4 episodes, but.
Well, I recently learned via Blue Sky, via my friend, who I follow, my IRL friend, who informed me via Skeet that the Spice Girls were really into Thatcher.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I had to fight. I am 32. I have loved this since I was 4. You're fucking this is people, fucking people do so much shit about, oh, Harry Potter. It was easy for me to give up Harry Potter. This hurts.
Now, there has been statements that they've since said that it was a statement that their record company pressured them to say.
Okay, they said it under duress. Okay, we're back.
It is believable that it was done under duress.
I think Victoria Beckham, I'm still a little skeptical, Victoria.
Oh, no, of course. Do you see the clip with her talking with, what's-his-face? When she's like, we grew up in a working-class family, be honest. What kind of car did your dad drive?
You were posh Spice. Yeah. I'm not believing it.
You weren't fucking local council estate Spice.
You weren't Luton Spice.
Yeah. How many Spice Girls have been in who? I'm trying to think. Jerry Halliwell's definitely been in, right?
I have no idea. I know that their song has been in Who now. Thank you, Davies. Thank you, Disney, for paying that Spice Girl money.
Spice up your life. There has never been a Spice Girl in a Doctor Who episode.
Finish. I got a box set for you.
Apparently, there was a quasi crossover with Jerry Halliwell for Sports Relief. Involving some Doctor Whovian nonsense. But, the Spice Up Your Life with dancing number is as close as they've come to it.
That is the canonization of the Spice Girls in the Whoniverse.
Yeah.
Do we think that, if the Maestro is a child of the Toymaker, do you think the Spice Girls are nieces, maybe, of the Toymaker?
The term Spicedro just jumped into my head and will not leave.
So I'm now rethinking that bit of, now that we have seen the Maestro, and this is relevant to Stitches in Time because we had Maestro a couple episodes. Will, you weren't here, but Maestro was, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So we saw Maestro. And they devour music. That's their whole thing. So it makes me think of less of the Toymaker is the father in the sense of he birthed Maestro, but more in the sense that Maestro is his cat and he just sprinkled some treats around. The Spice Girls was the little catnip he just put. Or just when you toss some treats on the floor and it was Maestro goes,
It actually makes more sense when you think about the Spice Girls from the Toymaker's perspective, because the Spice Girls don't make sense. They are...
just like cat treats.
Exactly. They're a Sailor Moon creation of bizarre subfacets of the UK. They had a quasi-theme park and a movie. None of this makes any sense. Daphne and Celeste didn't have a movie. PJ and Duncan, all right, well, they ended up turning into Ant and Dec. That's a different story. Also probably connected to the Maestro. But it makes sense now. All of Spice Mania makes sense if you think about it as the Toymaker, dropping these multiple characters in reality. Almost retroactively creating a world of Spice Mania. A world of Britpop.
How deep on the internet do you think that I need to search to see the Toymaker as portrayed by someone? Please remind me of the name of the guy that was the Toymaker. If someone can, how long on the internet I would need to take to find a photo of the Toymaker as portrayed by Neil Patrick Harris giving birth to Maestro? How deep on the internet do I need to go for that?
Not as deep as it should be.
I know about Rule 34. How deep do I need to go?
AO3, you're not going to be happy about who gives birth to who.
Bravo. Lordy. So down a pit.
Yeah, so I this is a question I have specifically about this clip of the Green Death. Because I get the sense from the reaction shots that we get from John Pertwee that the animals that he is encountering are supposedly larger than the animals that are playing them on the BBC, but but because it's so clearly just a close-up shot of a small animal, I can't, and there's no shot in which they appear even remotely in the same frame. How
it really gives you an appreciation of like, you need miniatures. If you would just put like a mini version of a house next to it, I'd believe you way more.
Yeah, or just like a tiny little TARDIS model or something. Like,
again, this is one of the things I love about Old Who, is that Old Who was done on, to call it a shoestring budget is a joke. The reason why it's those animals and there's nothing else is because whatever documentary another part of the BBC were filming, they were like, "Hey, can we pinch that footage? We need a monster thing." "Oh yeah, we just went over to Arizona. We got some footage of a snake. Do you want that?" "All right, that'll be right good. We'll put a blue filter over it. Have it chase it, doctor. Be right good." Like that's the process. We've all seen Plastic Chair Eats Man, because I am assuming they had a plastic chair lying around.
I can confirm I'm everyone. I've seen Plastic Chair Eats Man. They show you Lemon Party. They show you Two Girls, One Cup. They show you Plastic Chair Eats Man.
There is no way anyone listening to this podcast does not know what I'm talking about. You do not care enough to listen to an hour's conversation about the chronological order of Doctor Who and not know about Plastic Chair Eats Man.
No, my mom really tries to support the things I do.
Dear Mandy's mum, it's not a weird sex thing, it's a Doctor Who thing.
Sometimes it can be.
But also don't Google Two Girls, One Cup, Mandy's mom. So
Or
that's a bad idea.
Lemon Party is not a Doctor Who thing.
Hey, we were talking about Day of the Doctor. I think it's a little bit of a Doctor Who thing.
Oh, every moment on this podcast strays further from the God's light.
That is, surprise, my aim the whole time. This has been...
My goal in life is just to try to get weird things put on the internet. I've done once. I have initiated someone writing a fan fiction, and it's in a niche fandom, so I do not want to say which one it is. But I was the inception point for someone writing in fan fiction in which somebody fucks a cactus.
Is the cactus sentient?
No.
Okay.
It's just an cactus. It's not. I mean, it is a it is an urban fantasy, but none of it is fantasy.
I like that. And cactus is kind of like the fan fiction equivalent of exit stage pursued by a bear. There's nothing you can add to that.
Yeah,
right.
And it's like once you're
Fox and cactus.
I did that early. And once you learn, the internet will just do anything, you kind of just want to have it, not do, again, I need to reiterate, this is a fictional character. No real cactuses were harmed in the making of this. I don't want to put harmful stuff on the internet, but I do want to put weird stuff on the internet.
You intentionally did this. Am I correct in understanding this, Mandy?
I submitted it as a prompt for someone.
Okay.
And I only found out later because that fic became somewhat infamous in the fandom. Because it was a popular writer that took it. And I had talked to them for a bit and it was like, "Oh, I'm the one." So I just got to take someone else's credit. They did everything creative. And I was like, go for it.
You were the idea, the inception point.
Will, I assure you this is completely unrelated to this conversation, but I may in the near future be looking for a new co-host of this podcast. So if you're interested, just putting it out there.
I mean, I don't know if I would be able to do even nearly as good a job, because I just want to spend the entire time talking about how gloriously terrible the Green Death is.
Becca is realizing that I had ulterior motives wanting to be the co-host of this podcast.
Putting weird shit on the internet.
Chronological order, you say? How interesting.
Just so in chaos. I wish... I'm going to bring it back to Who. I wish I got the opportunity to sit down with a bunch of people, especially like US-based, and watch them watching this entire nonsense, this BBC Wales disaster. Because as we were saying in like the preamble green room, I want to know what they were making at BBC Wales, where all the sets and stuff came from. Because again, the rule of old Who always used to be, whatever the BBC is doing somewhere else, they get the sets. If they're doing a period drama, congratulations, Doctor Who's going to fucking Bremerton.
That's why there's so much historical pieces in Doctor Who.
Exactly.
They were doing it already.
And also, like, so many of the John Pertwee adventures are just about digging too far into the earth. They did it in The Green Death. They did it in the Silurians. They did it in Inferno. It's just like, yep, we've got drills, I guess.
The BBC made a big hole, and they had to find a way to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I'm trying to get a basement built, but in the meantime, can we just film in here, and then it'll kind of recoup some of the costs? I do have a question. Will, you might know, Becca, you might actually, this will learn me a thing about Becca's non-Doctor Who taste. When did the Pride and Prejudice miniseries come out?
19.
I'm gonna do a little Google.
Let Will guess a specific year first before you reveal it.
Okay.
1998, I'm going to say.
No, 1995, which...
You idiot!
I should have gone with my gut.
Unfortunately, puts this in the wilderness years, because the movie is 96. I was hoping, and this could still be the case, because I don't know if the Pride and Prejudice miniseries reused sets, what the likelihood is that the Pride and Prejudice miniseries locations are in Doctor Who. Because I'm going to tell you, those are the ones that I want to see.
Because a lot of those are all like actual, historical sites or, fancy houses, sometimes owned by an actual lord.
So those are houses that would have been existing prior. So it could have had. So anytime, and again, in 20 years, when we get to the 70s and 80s, if they're in a fancy house, I gotta check my sources of, is this the fancy house?
Yeah.
Was a Darcy here at some point? Where they all feel it all fancy and prejudiced.
So, Longbourn and Netherfield Park were both filmed at Luckington Court in Wiltshire. Lacock Village was Meryton, which is a real place where you can go buy groceries and shit. And the main house of Lady Catherine de Bourgh was filmed at Belton House in Lincolnshire. So that is a real fucking house. That ain't a set.
I gotta say, Colin Firth really captured the true Mr. Darcy essence of, when you look at him, you can't tell if he's angry or he just needs to poop.
Yes.
Because that's the plot of that book, is
but
he
in
actually...
a hot way.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how you know that it's true love. as someone who is married to enemy of the podcast, Ben Paddon, is deeply in love and knows kind of the trials and tribulations of true love. True love means not being sure if you're angry or you just need a poop, and having to accept that of your partner.
Is this why Ben sneaks in the green room? Are they foreboding from this podcast? Did you have to outsource your British ginger?
Well,
am I Kroger brand Ben?
If anything, Ben is Kroger brand you.
You're Vaughn's.
I don't hear Ben talking about any family members that they had that appeared in Terminus.
Yeah. Will, you are the better ginger Brit.
That's on a recorded format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Feel free to take that section of the podcast and make it your ringtone. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Technically, I don't know. I might need to qualify that. You're the better ginger English person, because technically my granny is also ginger and is from Northern Ireland, but she also would not like being called a Brit. So I don't know.
Sorry, Mandy's nan. I'm going to have to take the mantle from you. Sorry about the troubles.
I mean, she's not. Granny's been white-haired for so long.
Still ginger at heart. Oh.
Fun story about Mandy's grandmother. She was in 3 episodes of Torchwood. No. Yes. Oh, sorry. She played Martha Jones. No, wait, hang on.
Jack Harkness.
Oh, did I not mention Billie Piper is my sister?
That's the big reveal. For those who watch every episode of Stitch in Time, at the end, as Billie Piper appears. I mean, it's Mandy's sister.
We have different mothers and different fathers. Or sisters.
Yeah. Before I transitioned, I was Peter Davison. So that's, so...
You really
win. No, you win. None of us can fall on from that.
No.
Victory. Tie play.
I was trying to do some sort of okay, so you transitioned you managed to not have the celery thing, but in exchange you have a peanut allergy.
Mm-hmm. That's the trade-off.
You just concentrated everything. It was like a kryptonite kind of thing.
Right. Well, no, I because I'm a trans woman, I wear a pickle on my lapel all the time. Oh my goodness.
Oh my word.
I'm gonna take this as a signal that we don't really have much else to say about the Green Death.
Oh, I can go hard. I've been easing off the throttle.
If you want to go more on because I feel like you got a lot about the Green Death.
Oh, I've been revving the chair.
Oh, there is one thing. There is one thing I did want to bring up. That because so in the BBC edit, we don't understand why he's so jazzed to go to Metebelis 3.
Metebelis 3. Oh.
And he's there, and all we see is him traversing the terrain and narrowly escaping monsters and whatever. And then he comes back. He just comes back to Unit and is well, let's not talk about anything that just happened at all. Let's not acknowledge.
What I am hearing is that this bit, according to the BBC edit, it sounds like it's the equivalent of a Family Guy bit, where it's smash cut to something else, and then we'll never talk about that again
until part 5 or something, when John Pertwee all of a sudden just goes, "Hey Joe, remember when I went to Metebelis 3? Check out this cool sapphire thing I got there." And he just holds up this blue sapphire, and she is like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" She does not care at all, and it's so good.
They got this fucking plague coming up from the earth.
Somebody really felt like they needed to set up the Deus Ex Machina and be like, I hate you gotta do the Chekhov's gun thing. You gotta set it up in the first act. If you want it in the third act, and be like, it's a weird sapphire. You ain't gonna explain it. It's weird that you tried.
And the whole time he's pissing around with this, the assistant and Mr. British guy grown in a lab from UNIT and all pomp and circumstancing their way around Wales, being like, oh, there seem to be some problems. Oh, there's a virus coming up from the mine. Oh, we shouldn't send someone down here. Oh, I'm actually medically trained. Yeah, that's a good point. Let's send her in case somebody dies. Like, the whole episode is wild. The whole series is wild.
So usually I will insert clips, audio clips from the episode, but I don't feel the need to do that when you're on the podcast. Well, I just want you to know. I just want you to reenact all Doctor Who episodes.
That whole era is so weird because the unit is kind of trying to tell the Doctor what to do, which has famously worked great.
Right.
Yes, we're the British government, and I know you're a Time Lord and you travel through time, but we've decided that we're going to tell you what to do because of reasons. Welcome to UNIT.
Well, that's how unit tells things to the Doctor, and then the Doctor yells it at women, and that's how unit talks to women.
Pretty
it's
much.
Their outreach program to women.
Well, no, and you're not even slightly wrong. Unit shows up and goes, Doctor, there's a problem. People are turning green. Doctor's like, no, I must go to Metabolus 3 because it's fucking great or something. I forget. And then the assistant's like, I'm going to Wales and I'm going to save the day because coal is bad. And I've heard about this bloke that really likes mushrooms. And then she goes off to the place where everyone's supposed to go. And then Unit follows behind being like, oh, yes, well, totally my plan.
Yeah. Also, by the way, the Doctor returns to UNIT, and then the Brigadier is like, hey, Joe went to Wales. Can you give me a ride to Wales?
100%.
I'm
sorry, Doctor.
I'm glad.
It turns out there's only 3 of us here, and I can't drive because I've been drunk for 17 years. Could you pop in the old Jeep and drive us down?
So I also want to bring up that the Green Death is Jo Grant's final story. This is her exit because she falls in love with Cliff, the guy, Cliff Jones, who is the hippie professor mushroom guy.
Oh no, he's a bellend!
How many companions leave by way of falling in love? We got Susan. We got Joe.
We got Vicky. Vicky did it.
We got Bill, kinda.
Traveling across the universe, great fun.
I mean, she was already in love, but that's how Amy went. She goes, no, I'm gonna be with the husband. We're gonna work things out. We hope that there's a therapist in this time.
But I really love that, watching the episode in BBC order, you see them spending time together, and there is kind of a little courtship going on. But by this point, Joe is really into this guy, and then the Doctor shows up and is just like, "Hey, Joe, check out this rock that I found," and it almost feels
it's from Metabolus 3.
It almost feels like she's just like, what do I want more? To find this to talk to this new guy that I'm already interested in, and we align so much politically and ecologically and everything, but also I could go with the Doctor and look at cool rocks,
be ignored and look at cool rocks.
Yeah,
throughout the entirety of the Green Death, the Doctor has done nothing but ignore her constantly, even when she's been talking to him for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All it took was one hippie off his gourd on mushrooms to be like, hey, how about you and I have a conversation where I hear you and respond? Oh, I'm in love. Oh, he's so lovely, he's dreamy. Or does he just do the bare minimum because the Doctor... Okay, I'm good. Bring it down.
To be fair, in 1973, doing the bare minimum was pretty much all you had to do as a man to get a woman. That's like, to be fair, that's still true today.
Yeah. This is kind of what like, you know, that current Doctor Who is on some different stuff. The amount that Ncuti listens to women, he's all about, like, he's just sitting with his hand in his, like, his chin in his hand and going, "Hey, talk to me, women. What you doing?"
Yeah.
It's a different Doctor.
It does make him canonically the most fuckable Doctor to date.
Like, he even listens to women who are being actively racist toward him. Like,
It also means that, unfortunately, David Tennant took on all the women hating. Like, the Tennant Doctor is keeping all of the weird misogyny, but Catherine Tate's gonna beat it out of him.
True.
And that's when they're like, "Oh, the doctor's going to the Tennant Doctor is going to therapy." The Tennant Doctor is getting his ass beat by Catherine Tate.
Oh yeah, no, cracking knuckles the whole
And
thing.
be like, "We're gonna drink your respect women juice now."
Her entire persona in that
Fuck her
character
up.
is, "What the fuck did you just say? Walk it back, Doctor. The fuck did you just say?"
Yeah, that's how we got Ncuti out of that David Tennant. I feel like that's also how we get, like, I feel like series 4, she went like way hard on him, and that's why he turned into Matt Smith, who was just like, don't
He's an incel.
I don't know. I don't want to even like look at or think about women for a second. Like, just leave me alone, women, for a regeneration or two. That'd be great. I just want to take a break from all this now.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
I have a bad thought, and that is, I do think that the 11th Doctor is the Doctor that cares the most about ethics and games journalism.
Oh no, that's gonna hurt me tomorrow. Oh, I'm gonna be thinking about that for days. Can we just talk about Ncuti being hot some more? Can we do that?
Sure. It sounds like we need to have you back for a Ncuti episode.
Oh, but it's gonna be a while before a Ncuti one, right?
We've already had Ncutis.
We've already had
two. Because they keep bringing dinosaurs in. We had to make a correction to the podcast.
Ncuti just keeps doing stuff. Just keeps showing up and looking at dinosaurs.
Because to your point, Will, of like, historically Doctor Who is kind of, it's recycled stuff that it has. And now it's kind of like, and granted, season 1, you could really tell like they're going all out. I would not be surprised if season 2 is a bit of a downgrade as they kind of like reassess their finances. I'm glad that they spent a lot of money making Doctor Who look good. I will not be like, I feel like people should hedge their bets of like, season 2 might look bad because they might have made the show cheaper. I think that will be fine, but like the Christmas special, like, you can spend the money to make a really cool dinosaur. I'm sure that costs more than what entire episodes of previous Doctor Who cost to make.
I bet that one dinosaur cost more than the entire Hartnell era. Like, that's just...
Yeah,
100%.
Like, that's the kind of things that they can operate with, and like, again, hedge your bets. I would not be like, that's kind of how we're season 2 stuff, and like, there's all of this fear mongering of like, oh, Doctor Who's not successful, they're gonna cancel it. I don't think that they're gonna cancel it. And even if it's I think that it is a thing that they will downgrade.
All I can really add is
season 1 was a high bar, and they'll probably be like, you thought space babies look weird? You're gonna get a lot more weird.
True.
All I was going to add was just like, back in old Who, it's BBC, right? And for those who, I don't know, who wouldn't be aware of this, but just for accidental context, the BBC back in the day was funded by television licenses. So the budget for your show was what the BBC decided. It didn't have to make a profit. It just had to exist, right?
Yeah.
Right.
What shows got made and didn't was a discussion at the BBC. These days, what the fuck does a successful Who show look like?
Yeah.
You know?
So, tangent, Will. So, enemy of the show, Ben Paddon, who that's always how I will say their name. Enemy of the show, Ben Paddon, for Christmas bought me, imported in a Blu-ray of the Young Ones.
God, yes.
Because I am a huge Drop Dead Fred fan, and so Ben wanted to show me like what Rick Mail did before Drop Dead Fred. In that show, and Ben having to like tell me midway through, oh hey, under the BBC, this got money as a variety show.
Which is why there's always a live performance in every episode, so they can classify it as a variety show and get away with doing the most unhinged shit and still get paid.
This Ben telling me midway through the song number, and it was like, hey, this is gonna have nothing to do with this episode.
They had
there is just a song in the middle of it.
Madness. They didn't have Buddy Holly on. He got killed as a character.
I did see the Buddy Holly and I was excited. So I don't know who Madness is, but Ben also brought up Madness, and Ben was like really kind of like when because they said Madness, like I don't know who that is. I'm like, oh, you'll know when the song plays. And when the song plays, Ben was looking at me like all excited, and I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what Madness is.
Our house in the middle of our house. Our house.
That's not the song that played.
No, they did Baggy Trousers.
Okay, I don't know Baggy Trousers. I know Our House. Tell him to go back, get the Back to the Future car, go back, tell them to do Our House, and I'll recognize them this time.
All right, jobs are good. Jobs are good.
And that Blu-ray will never get made because it will cost too much money to license that song.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The weirdness of the BBC and how things got made through it continues to boggle my mind to this day. And there's nothing more perfectly that encapsulates the insanity of the BBC than The Young Ones. And not the content. Though the content is pretty slapstick. It was once described as the bane of drama teachers everywhere. Because it feels improvisational chaos. It's not. It's very good comedians doing their bit. Don't look at me. I'm irrelevant.
Midway through, I had to ask Ben, who's supposed to be the straight man here? And Ben was like, I don't think it's any of them. And that's when I realized Rick Mail is the straight man of that show.
Yeah. And there was some putzing around. His next big success was Bottom. And that's a whole kettle of monkeys. But anyway, the only thing that I guess is relevant to Stitch in Time is just that the BBC had its own bizarre internal politics that, because it wasn't a for-profit operation, made very little fucking sense. And the whole thing about Doctor Who growing out of, what was it I was talking about in the green room? Not Quagmire, that's the bloke from Family Guy.
Oh no, you were saying it.
I mean, it is also a
word
word in the
actual
English language. So,
Quartermaster.
Oh yeah,
Quartermaster, Quarterlass,
Quartermass Experiment.
Quartermass Experiment.
Taskmaster. It's derived from Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Where it was a guy being mean to people.
And it's just, I know we talked about this in the last episode as well, but the yes-anding of Who, of like, oh yeah, so this week, I know we wrote a story about, fighting Daleks in the future, but they got us a couple hours on this Roman history set that they're doing for a thing, so the Doctor's going to Rome, I guess. Get your toga on, mate.
My favorite thing is when English people have to imitate other English people. It is my, that is my thing. I love it so much. When I have to hear an English person being like, oh, I'm doing a funny bit by doing a slightly different British accent. It's so good. And I don't,
it's really good.
I don't know if you like, does it hit if like somebody who doesn't have a Texas, like an American that doesn't have a Texas accent, when they do a Texas accent? I don't know if that, like, I don't feel like that hits as well.
I don't know. Most people who have done impressions of other American accents have done them usually either very well or perhaps my ear's not trained enough. Where it's like, oh, that is you sure are doing a Texan.
Well, I don't know if I agree with you, Will, there. That's something I have to take a little issue with.
I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, the thing that I feel is like, aw, you think that sounds different. I can't tell the difference between those two. That sounded exactly the same.
I've spent so much of the last, like, decade of my life consuming... 2 decades of my life consuming British media that I actually feel like I can tell the difference. And it's like, it's not, my ear's not quite as attuned as an actual British person, but like, I'm starting to be like, I hear a little Yorkshire in there. Okay.
The Green Death, which is so Welsh, it might as well have had a Tom Jones cameo in it.
I feel like I've gotten, like, I can usually recognize when someone, like, oh, that's like a new phrasing of that. And I'll turn to Ben and be like, he pronounced that vowel weird. Where's that vowel from? And I think it's also, in fairness, like, both of my culture, like, I talked to my granny's from Derry. When I tell other Irish people that my granny's from Derry, they're like, oh God, that accent.
I feel really bad about that joke earlier of sorry about the troubles. I'd like to formally apologise for my earlier joke. Please don't hate me. I didn't realise they were from Derry.
I spent a long time telling my mom that Ben was from Wales. And be like, I'm marrying a Welsh person. I mean, it's a few generations back, but where are they now? We don't need to talk about that. But I had that, and then on my dad's side, my dad's from Puerto Rico. When I took Spanish in high school.
Yeah.
And my Spanish teacher, who was like she was born and raised in Mexico, was like a phenomenal teacher. Like, we taught her what meathead was because we tried to say it in Spanish, and she's like, "That's not what are you trying to say?" Well, meathead. It's like, I don't know what that is.
Carne.
Like,
yeah, that's
a meathead, and it was like, it's like a dumb gym bro. And she got all excited, like, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna call my husband a meathead and see what happens. But she was great. But like, first day, she's asking everyone like why they're in Spanish class, and people are like, because I need it in order to get the diploma. And I was like, well, I'm Puerto Rican. I did not grow up speaking Spanish, but my grandfather, like, he does speak English, but it's like somewhat limited. And I would love to be able to have like an actual conversation with him in Spanish. And she was like, the Puerto Rican. And I was like, yeah. She was like, I can't help you with that. I can teach you Mexican Spanish. I can't teach you what they're saying. It doesn't sound like a thing. Like, one of my roommates had been dating a Mexican guy, and we were watching some reality TV show, and they had like a bit in Puerto Rico, and they were like just walking around, and there was like, they were speaking in Spanish, and my roommate's boyfriend was like, I think they're speaking Spanish, but I don't understand what they're saying because Puerto Ricans also talk super weird. All that to say, both sides of my family have very weird accent things, so I cannot figure out what normal accents are.
Okay.
On the subject of languages I have taken in my life, I took a year of Japanese, and I learned that the word for blue and the word for green used to be the same word in Japanese.
Did you have colorblindness? Were they colorblind, or was it just like there's the same? Because I know like there are.
I think it was just they're the same, because now they've added the word. There is the Japanese word green is now means green, as far as I know.
So it's a loan word.
Yeah. So, but I was thinking about that when we were talking about, hey, this is supposed to be the Green Death, but everything's blue. What's going on? I was like, maybe a Japanese
All comes
person
back around.
designed
The loop is complete.
Metabolus 3.
Metabolus 3.
I don't know if that's like I don't know if it's the green and blue thing, but there is something about that of like the history of like, oh, this word came at this point in time and this word came at this point in time. It like I know orange is one of those, like, orange is named for the fruit. The fruit came before the color, and before that it was just red. Like, that's just a shade of red, and it does kind of go like...
That's why we call people redheads. That's where that comes from. Because the word redhead existed before the word orange existed.
Thousands of years before Ginog would get thrown around.
Yeah, and like...
Oi, Ginger.
Like, Will, you have a pride flag behind you, and we can see the clear delineations of color, but it is meant to be, and you're posing behind it, but the way that Zoom works, it won't record you doing... Will, make a noise and showcase your thing so it can be edited in properly.
There we go.
You're welcome, YouTube.
But yeah, but it's meant to be a rainbow, and a rainbow does not have those clear delineations of color in the same way. So we as a people had to decide, oh, hey, here's where I think the line is on this color.
Yeah. And that's like, there are texts from like ancient Greece that describe the sea as a wine dark color. So I feel like...
What kind of wine were they making?
I honestly, there is something, I don't know the specifics of it, but it's really interesting if you do research into it, where like certain colors are like more, like the color red appears in every civilization because it's an important color to know if you're like having meat or bleeding.
Yeah, like that's a color that you get first.
Right, yeah. Whereas like green and blue might not be as like important to, and it probably depends on like where your tribe lives and
access to pigments and stuff like that. Purple being one of the most rich colors is because purple's so hard to make naturally as a color. If you want to get on some history shit, like I have ancient knowledge buried within these ginger blocks. I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry.
It's a thing that's going to keep happening. Like, I would not be surprised if, like, 100 years from now, people are like, oh, wait, salmon was a fish before it was a color? And I say that because, 100 years from now, the oceans will have boiled because of global warming, so we won't have fish anymore.
Second impact, let's go.
Yeah.
But we'll have salmon.
It does make me laugh that we haven't named it salmon for its beautiful iridescent scales that sparkle in the light. We named it for the fucking guts of that bastard. We named it because when you crack that bugger open, look inside. Oh, that's salmon. Fucking hell.
Don't ever tell the salmon.
One day we shall answer for our hubris.
I gotta say, I feel like we in this episode, we really captured, as someone who did not watch The Green Death and only watched what I was contractually obligated to on this podcast, which meant that I watched what I think was a prequel to Twilight based off of the color grading.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Like, I feel like we captured the experience of The Green Death, because definitely we were on some weed tangents.
Oh yeah,
and
we're
like a Green
we're
Death.
doing homemade mushroom tea in some Welsh guy's fucking basement lab while he does the bare minimum. Did we go to Metabolus 3? No. Maybe we should have.
Which of the doctors is the most likely to be doing magic mushrooms all the time?
Oh, Sylvester McCoy, hands down.
Yeah, I think that's
without a doubt.
That's a great answer. Yeah, I didn't know there was only one correct answer until you said that, and now yeah.
It's like, and I feel that way about Sylvester McCoy. He's very someone of like, he's the only one who does that. When he is a prompt, he is always the only answer.
He's got the face of a psychonaut, which I learned very recently is actually a real thing and not just a video game term. he has explored space and time, but he has also explored the mind.
Yes. Specifically Ace's mind. Specifically her traumas. Sorry.
No lies detected.
I did want to read, we got another, somebody is actually taking us up on our give us feedback in the form of 5-star iTunes reviews.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, comments, or even a correction to the podcast, you can always send your feedback in the form of a 5-star review to Apple Podcasts.
Yes.
Thanks!
This one is from a user named El Jefe Tacoma. And it is clearly in response to our episode on the Doctor's Wife. The title of the review is, I Want to Vor the Doctor. El Jefe Tacoma writes, Hello, I'm the soul of the TARDIS, and I love this show. I've been meaning to review it for a long time, but due to some of the Doctor's timey-wimey nonsense, I'm only just now getting to use thumbs and make words in order and so forth. Mandy and Becca are delightfully silly and charming and make eating various people easier because they put it all in order from the first moments of the universe to the end, where Clara Oswald and I will have eaten everyone else and started in on each other. Oops, spoilers. Thank you, El Jefe Tacoma, for your wonderful iTunes review. Also, if you leave us iTunes reviews, we will probably read them on the podcast, because we don't have a time limit.
God, that's amazing. El Jefe Tacoma.
Yeah.
Beautiful. My dad had a Tacoma. When you said that aloud, there's a part of me who was like, did my dad leave a review?
Papa?
But no, he doesn't love me that much.
My dad's dead. Sorry. Wow, yeah, I rolled that grenade in there without thinking or considering a consequence. Doctor,
I understand what you and Ben have in common.
It's dead parents.
Why don't I get us back on the right track by asking Will once again if you could remind us where you can be found online.
If for some bizarre reason, dear listener, throughout all of this nonsense, you've been like, that English guy who's continuously screeching and unhinged about Welsh coal mining, I'd like to hear more of that. I'm on twitch.television, it's a website, and I am Viking Blonde over there, so I'm sorry.
Amazing.
No, I'm going to hype Will up. I love Will's streams. Will's streams are so good. I particularly love when you are a pirate, when you can play Sea of Thieves. You do a phenomenal job being a pirate. I will also selfishly say that I love when you are made to be frightened, particularly by sharks. When you when you are under financial duress to force yourself to deal with very uncomfortable video games, it's problematic, but I'm gonna say I really like it.
It's
a
coming
good
back.
time.
You should
definitely please subscribe to Will. Will is great. Also, Will is doing very long streams all of the time. So Will, that's not Will. That's enemy. That's the enemy of the show. I told y'all that they were the enemy. I am talking about Will right now. So Will is a phenomenal streamer, does very long streams, probably needs shit to ramble about. So if you liked this, because I definitely I love hearing Will talk about Doctor Who. You should go on Will's streams and you should bother him about Doctor Who, because he needs shit to talk about, because he's doing streams for hours. And sometimes the games are good, but sometimes the games are kind of boring. And so he needs shit to talk about. Will, I know that you can't say it because you are a friend of the video game industry, but I can say it. Sometimes video games are bad.
I tell you what, now that I've gotten off of this podcast-ness, I saved my banter for today, so I will be weapons free if people want to talk about the Green Death some more and how very British it is. Painfully so.
If you want to, listeners, if you want to look up which Pride and Prejudice filming locations were also featured in Doctor Who, please mention them to Will on his live streams.
Wasn't Petworth House, though. That is Bridgerton.
Please do so in the form of bits on Twitch that you send to him. Particularly, surprise, if you enjoyed this podcast, but you wish that Will cried more, if you send a lot of money, you could watch it happen.
I've never gotten used to that. Right, you beautiful Mother Hubbards.
Do you want to torture an Englishman? Here's how. Twitch.tv/Viking_blonde.
That's the pitch.
This is reparation. My granny was asking for reparations, and here it is.
Well, Will, thank you so much for joining us for this absolute nonsense.
It has been an honor and a privilege and a glorious cacophony of chaos.
Yes, we would love to have you back someday. I was looking at the next Shooty episode we have is Joy to the World at 1 AD. Spoilers if you haven't watched the Christmas special yet, listeners. But also, because Shooty is the current Doctor, there might be things we slide in before that. So,
who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as you're watching those episodes, if you want to slide into our DMs and catch yourself and be like, when we did the Christmas special and me just texting Becca in the middle of watching it, oh no.
You texted me that when you saw the trailer and there was a dinosaur in the trailer. And I was just like, oh God, oh no, what am I in for? Listeners, I hope you'll join us again next week when we will be discussing the Rings of Akaten.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's definitely a Power Rangers episode. I don't know why we're watching it for Doctor Who. Becca, I might have to leave a 5-star review to this podcast and leave a correction on the show.
After 10,000 years, I'm free!
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Stitches in Time. Music by Becca McGlynn. Art by Mandy Oquendo. Logo by Ben Paddon. Produced by Becca McGlynn and Ben Paddon. Email us at matrixarchivist@gmail.com.
Yeah. I only watch the bit that's in as part of the clip, and I'm just trying to piece the context together.
I watched the little clips, and I was like, no, I can't leave this. I've got to watch the episodes. And I was cackling laughing. Sorry, I'm burning banter before we get started.
That's all right. I mean, also much of
it's also already recording. She can put the banter back in.
Yeah, I usually put banter in there. This is just the vibe of the podcast. This is what we do.
If you don't have live banter, store-bought is fine. I did I rewatched all of Dead Doctor because it's brilliant. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I've actually ever seen The Green Death. I've seen the clip, now let's watch it. It's amazing. Ben, the entire plot is down at pit. It is the most... I mean... BBC Wales got the whole ass budget.
It's the pertweest episode that ever pertweed. It's just...
I'm also going to say, and I'm ruining the podcast because I'm not recording my audio. I'm on my phone. But my favorite fact about the Green Death, and you can talk about this properly when you're actually doing the show, is that for a lot of the wide shots, they didn't have like maggot props, so they just filled condoms with custard.
That's so grim. That's proper BBC props, though.
Hey, Ben, can you go leave that information in the form of a 5-star review so we can read it on the show?
Little does Ben know, I have the ability to use the audio that they were recording from the Zoom recording directly.
The gasp. I like this. This could be like a little secret episode for your lovely viewership.
Yeah, this is our Patreon exclusive.
Yeah. Well, the thing I wanted to ask Ben was, because we're going to be going back to old Who, and sure, but the thing is, as I'm sure you know, but I love talking about, is that all the sets and plot lines were predominantly based around whatever the fuck else the BBC was doing. I want to know what the show was that was the sets and plot line. Because they had the coal mining sets, they had the Welsh village set. Like, what weird little drama were they filming? Like, maybe it was like a knockoff Emmerdale set in Wales and a coal mining town.
This is the makings of a phenomenal YouTube deep dive. This is going to be a 5-hour-long video, and I
can't do it. I'm already doing like 3 videos right now.
Well, add it to the list.
Oh, Doctor Who and the Green Death.
Sometimes we choose the videos we make. Sometimes the videos we make choose us.
By Mandy. Mandy chose. Do you have a Patreon? Do you do that Patreon thing where people can vote for topics? Because I'm about to be real annoying.
All right, it's going on the list.
Mandy's about to pay your rent for a year.
Doctor Who and the Green Death.
I'm gonna go bankrupt.
Because I was gonna do a video on the proto Whovian show, which I drunkenly stumbled on at Christmas. Oh, what was it bloody called? Not spatchcock. That's a form of cooking.
Dr. MD. Who MD?
Bloody hell!
House MD.
If with this is just Patreon exclusive faffermancy, I don't mind looking at my phone. We're not being professional.
No, it's fine.
Because I also drunkenly text this to Ben in between what I call Ben and Mandy watch, which is where I send them a photo of my favourite dive bar bathroom where I put the stickers from their wedding.
Aw.
Okay.
I was not at the wedding, but I still got stickers, so I feel like I was there.
Yeah, Becca, I met you like the week after my wedding.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Becca is kind of the first person that I ever introduced to myself to as a married person.
Aww,
that's pretty amazing,
cool.
Actually. That's lovely.
But yeah, I stumbled upon this thing called the Quartermass Experiment, which was an old post-radio show.
Yeah.
Which is basically the proto-Who. The early episodes that have been saved, because very few survived, there's actually a bounty on any of the missing episodes.
Whoa.
It's a radio play in stage format. I know that sounds obvious, but it'll make sense if you watch it. But it goes right the way up to, like, the ITV did an insanely high-budget finale, which is kind of like the movie Red, as in Retired and Dangerous, but as a Doctor Who grand finale. There's, like, helicopters and explosions and shit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We drunkenly stumbled upon it.
Big Finish, we got something for you. We got a new license for you.
You know what I drunkenly stumbled on a couple weeks ago with a friend of mine is the American pilot of the IT Crowd.
Oh, no!
Starring Joel McHale and Richard Iowati.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Pilot
now,
watch is going to have to happen.
So was this pilot before? I imagine it was before Community.
I think it was like. I think it was like
it
a
before
year
or after the soup.
I think it was like 2 or 3 years after the IT Crowd premiered in the UK, and really glad that it didn't take off because Graham Linehan turned out to be a piece of shit.
Yeah. What a fucking scumbag.
Oh well, sorry you don't have more money from America.
One day he will poo himself to death, and we will drink hearty that day.
You know, I don't even know what I'm going to be drinking. I just know I need to drink a lot so I can piss on this grave. Like, that's...
Yeah. New gender-neutral bathroom dropped.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Should we do a 3, 2, 1 clap and start this episode?
Yeah,
now?
let's
get
go
going
for it.
because we're about to come back around because you can't talk about coal mining without Thatcher.
All right, here we go. I'll kick us off here. We ready? Give us a little 3, 2, 1. So that would be where you would clap. Will.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I realised I was
again?
1,000 miles away. Becca, would you mind giving me another count in? I'm so sorry.
I'll do it. I don't know if it's going to be as good as the first one, but I'll do my best.
It was a really good one.
Yeah. All right, here we go. 3, 4. No, shit. See? Now I'm all messed up. All right.
Just throw it out the window.
Mandy, are you prepared for your thing that you're going to say?
Yeah.
Or
I think so.
now, let me rephrase that because as I learned, sometimes you come up with it on the fly. Will you be prepared to say a thing by the time I get to the end of my 4 sentences that I say at the beginning of every episode?
I will definitely be talking, and I hope that my brain will catch up.
Amazing. All right, here we go. I have to step away for a second because the person who's hosting me is home, and I have the only key to her house.
No.
Give me 1 second.
I will admit, I thought this was a bit.
Yourselves.
I thought this was a bit. I
I was
this
waiting for it to be a bit
fun
as well. I don't want to inflict upon your listeners the tippity-tappity make stuff happy of my keyboard, but I really want to Google now how many times have the Spice Girls been in a Doctor Who episode? Because it's got to be more than one.
You can Google, just don't talk while you're Googling, because then we could just cut out all the part where you're talking.
Done and done. I need to know this, so the tapping begins now.
At least that's what I tell myself. I don't actually. Maybe I should check in with Becca editing wise, but I'm pretty sure that's how editing works.
That is the correct advice. It's not advice that I myself follow, as is. I sadly have discovered that I am the greatest violeur of that rule.
Becca, this doesn't have to be an on the podcast thing. I will leave you to knowing how rude of a question I'm about to ask. Is it a thing of trans women in pickles? Like, do you have to have salt or something?
It's a thing. And I was actually talking to Riley about this last night because she was explaining it to somebody else who didn't know this. It is a thing. I mean, it's sort of a meme that all trans women love pickles, but one of the reasons for that is that I think it's the testosterone blocker spironolactone, like lowers your sodium level or something, so you're like you crave
sodium
salty things. It's a meme in trans femme circles.
Okay. I'm glad, because, I mean, there are, like, I had the same thing with the meme of, that, the TikTok trending sound of someone saying, I'm Amanda, I'm 6. And I was like, this has to be this sounds very transphobic. And I looked up the original ad, and I mean, like, I think there are some undertones maybe, but it's just a thing of like, hey, make sure you know who your children are talking to on the internet.
Yeah.
I'd seen the pickle meme doing the rounds, and I had neither the time or the opportunity to ask. Fascinating.
Well, thank you for explaining that. I'm sorry for derailing our podcast time so that you can explain
Sorry for giving you more editing to do.
Becca, now that you have to explain your culture to me, I know how difficult it is to have to try to explain culture to people, so...
Mandy, can we devote the next 10 minutes of this podcast? What's Puerto Rico? Let's talk about this for a second.
So it's like England, but littler and better.
Right.
No lies detected.
The reason why Ben and my dad get along great, and I honestly think it's because they're both little island people who are just in the States now. They got a lot to relate to.
Interesting.
If for some bizarre reason, dear listener, throughout all of this nonsense, you've been like, that English guy who's continuously screeching and unhinged about Welsh coal mining, I'd like to hear more of that.
That is not enemy of the show, Ben Paddon. I need to reiterate for those that might have been confused. We did not have Ben was on possibly separately. They did invade the podcast at one point because they are once again enemy of the show. But
Right.
we have not been talking with enemy of the show, Ben Paddon, for this podcast. We've been talking to a different British person.
As a very quick aside, there is an individual in the games industry who I'm now friends with because they thought that Ben and I were the same person. And if you ever see Ben and I together, we do not look alike.
Yeah,
That is
we
true.
have been talking today with Shaggy Simon Pegg.
I gotta say, Will, you have enough red hair to like create 2 more Ben Paddons. I think that's
Much like a dandelion, when I finally expire and my ginger hair tufts upon the wind, that's
Exactly.
how it happens.